At state houses and state capitals around the world, lawmakers pass all kinds of laws, but are they enforceable? I mean, sure, somebody gets elected and they've got to show results, and some of the laws are very well intended, like no texting and driving and hands-free rules and things like that. And 37 states now have rules about staying far away from bicycles when you pass them. Massachusetts is one of those states. In fact, the law that was passed here said you have to stay 4 feet away from a bicycle when you pass it driving your vehicle. But how do they enforce that? What's 4 feet? Let's figure that out. Right here we have 48 inches. That's 4 feet. So next time you pass a bicycle when you're driving, remember this. This is 4 feet right here. And so that's how far you have to stay away from a bicycle when you pass it driving your car. Some states, and we'll tell you in a minute, and even an entire country have banned swearing. Where? Coming up on Unenforceable Laws right here on About the Law.
Andrew, why were you waving your measuring tape at the State House?
Well, I mean, come on. How many people really know what 4 feet is?
They're just trying to make it safe for people on their bikes.
Yeah, but I mean, I agree we should make things safe for bicyclists, but I mean, how is this law even going to be enforceable?
Well, you just gotta carry around your measuring tape. Let's see. Are you 4 feet away from me right now?
I hope so. I really do. I think that's more than 4 feet. Well, to help us take a look at these interesting laws, to say the least, we have a very special guest today, and it is former Boston journalist and journalism professor, Doug Cope. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here and to talk about these very unenforceable laws that are all over the place now, it seems.
Well, why do they even pass them if they're well intended, like I said before, but how do you enforce the laws if they're, do you know what 4 feet is?
Well, I only have 2, frankly. So it's very difficult.
Very funny. Very funny. So what we're going to do now is take a look at some unenforceable laws. And, it's funny. There's just so many of them to pick from. So let me see what I can come up with here. Here we go. This is the one that I was just talking about. 2/3 of all the states have passed laws prohibiting vehicles from getting too close to bicycles when passing. And the Massachusetts version requires cars to stay at least 4 feet away, but the law doesn't say bicycles. It says vulnerable users.
Which would include bicycles, but as you pointed out, it includes a lot of other different kinds of, people, persons, and things that go through that lane.
Well, here's the definition. Laws all have definitions, and the definition of a vulnerable user is a bicycle, a hand cycle, a tricycle. Doug, when's the last time you rode your tricycle down Beacon Street?
Well, I don't want to say anything, but the other day,
All right, a skateboard, a roller skates, inline skates, non-motorized scooters, wheelchairs, electric personal assistance mobility devices. Oh, I ran out of breath on that one. A horse, or a horse-drawn carriage.
I've never seen a horse in a bike lane. Have you?
No. And the other interesting thing about the way this particular law is written is that it says, in passing a vulnerable user, the operator of a motor vehicle shall pass at a safe distance of not less than 4 feet and at a, quote, reasonable and proper speed.
Now, what is a reasonable and proper speed? And how do you know that you're 4 feet away? And if you have to keep 4 feet away, can you do that and still safely drive down the street? Now, when you drive down the street and there's a bicycle to your right, what do you usually do? You swerve a little over to the left, give that bike some extra room, because, the bike could move a little bit, here or there, and you want to make sure you pass safe. Problem is, roads in Massachusetts, a lot of them, really aren't that wide. A lot of them
the roads are 4 feet.
Well, a lot of them were cow pastures way back when. We've mentioned that before in a previous edition here. But if you have to keep 4 feet between you and the bike, and you only have a certain amount of room in that roadway, and you're kind of veering into the other lane, and there's another car, or worse yet, a pickup truck, or worse yet, a tractor trailer truck coming at you, what are you supposed to do? And also, if there is an accident, and you, of course, are an attorney that deals with accidents and who's at fault, who's not, and resolving certain claims from accidents, how is a police officer or someone who's accusing me of causing an accident supposed to prove that I was less than 4 feet away from whatever I hit in that bicycle lane?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, even if, nowadays we have dash cams, and even if there is, dash cam footage of you passing the bicycle, how are they going to measure 4 feet? Because it all goes by the camera angle and how far away the camera was. And so, no, it's just,
Are we going to have little 4-foot feelers attached to all our cars, going down the street to make sure that, we're 4 feet away from everything? It's really difficult.
Like those trucks with spikes on the side, just have those be 4 feet.
Well, you had asked me what is a reasonable proper speed, and I'm glad you asked, because here's of 2 pages of what the legislature has told us is a reasonable and proper speed. And I'm not going to take all day to read the whole thing, because we'll lose any viewers that we still have.
Stay with us, please.
Excuse me. If a motor vehicle is operated on a divided highway outside a thickly settled or business district, 50 miles an hour is all right. Number 2, on any other way outside a thickly settled or business district at a speed exceeding 40 miles an hour. And it goes on and on. Number 4 is within a school zone, 20 miles an hour. And it goes on and on. But Doug, I mean, I have all these law books behind me, but when you're driving, do you carry a law book with you so that you can refer to this and decide what your speed's going to be?
Quite frankly, no. However, there are speed limit signs on many streets, and I do try to adhere to those speed limits, even though here in Massachusetts, at least, I think the only rule is there are no rules. Well, it's difficult sometimes, but yes. What is a reasonable speed? Well, you are proceeding basically at the rate of the other traffic. That's a reasonable speed.
Now, I remember when they passed the hands-free laws, there was a lot of publicity about those, but I don't remember any publicity about this at all. I don't remember them saying, if you're in a school zone and you're passing a bicycle and there's no horses on the left, then on the right, you should go 23.5 miles. I don't remember that publicity. I don't know. Maybe.
No, I don't recall that either in terms of the speed. All you heard about was the 4-foot rule, which... okay, they passed that to give the impression that they were trying to do something to improve bicycle safety and promote the use of bicycles because they're more environmentally sound and that they do not have a combustion engine, although a lot of them do have electric motors now, and those can go pretty fast and maybe knock over all those other people do it in the wheelchairs in those bike lanes.
But Doug, yeah. I mean, I live 22 miles from one of my 2 offices. You want me to bike 22 miles into my office?
Absolutely. Just think of what great shape you'll be in when you get to work.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know. I think that's
you got to shower at work. Come on.
Just use the extra quarter mile on the loop.
So let's go.
So fit.
Hands-free laws is the next category. Yeah. And again, this was big in the newspapers. I remember when they passed these laws, hands-free laws, no texting. If you're under 18, no nothing.
Right.
And there was a lot of publicity. I remember it was in the newspapers. The TV people all, did special reports. They would ride along with the police, and so for about a week or maybe 10 days after these laws were passed, there was a lot of publicity. But now I walk a lot, and I walk outside of the office. There's a red light, and even when the light turns green, everybody's looking down at their screens.
Oh yeah. I mean, these things here were one of the most dangerous things that was ever invented by man. I see it all the time too. When I'm driving, I see people with a phone in their hand, or I see them at traffic lights with both hands like this,
On the
and
wheel.
they're on the phone a lot more than they're driving the car. But how is a police officer supposed to pull someone over for doing that? They would physically have to see that and testify that I definitely saw this person doing that. Very, very hard to prove.
Mm-hmm.
No, you can't ever prove
Almost
that. I mean,
completely unenforceable.
it happened just yesterday, but it happens all the time that I was at a red light. I was like the second car back, and I'm waiting patiently. And I don't know whether I'm getting older or the lights are getting longer or I'm getting less patient or a combination of all three of those things. But the light turns green and the person in front of me doesn't move. And they don't move.
Yeah.
And they don't move.
Right.
I finally gave just a little tap, and guess what they did? The little one finger salute.
Oh my
You know,
God.
and it's like, so, I mean, they're well-intended laws, but I mean, come on, how are they going to?
Well, and here's another thing too, as far as being not even being able to use hands-free, if you're 18 or under. If you see somebody who could be 17, you don't know how old they are, and they're driving and talking at the same time. Is that illegal?
Well,
you don't know if they're on a phone or not. It's just, I mean, these are feel-good laws so that legislators can say, okay, we did something to make the road safer. Now, you go ahead and enforce them. Good luck. So I just don't see how these laws, which, again, as you say, very well intended, but how do you enforce them so that people don't do these things that these laws say are dangerous and can affect?
Let's look at the next one. Fireworks.
Oh
boy.
Yes.
Fireworks, they're allowed in some states like New Hampshire, much of the Midwest, all those states you see that are blue on the map. Many states allow them with restrictions, but look at the couple of red states. No fireworks in Massachusetts, New Jersey, Delaware. No fireworks.
Yeah, fireworks have never been legal in Massachusetts, and I doubt that they ever will be unless somebody comes up with a good way to get some tax money from them. But every year around the 4th of July and the 3rd of July and the 2nd of July and the 5th of July and the 6th of July
and the 5th
and the 7th of July, there are fireworks I hear every night, all usually about the same time after it gets dark, 9:30, that go off in my neighborhood. They last for a while. The cats and dogs run underneath tables, things like that.
Well, a friend of mine lives just north of Boston, and let's go talk to my old friend Christine, who made some observations where she lives in a city just north of Boston. This is my friend Christine, who lives in a city just north of Boston. Fireworks are illegal in Massachusetts, but Christine, tell our audience what you saw on the 4th of July.
On the 4th of July, I usually just look out the window because I usually see one fireworks display from a distance, but this time I saw one from every part of my house, and it was full on. Like they each even had like a finale in north, south, and west, and then I even heard banging like fireworks on the other side of the house.
The big loud ones. You saw out what, 3 different windows? You saw 3 different displays?
Yeah. And it was funny because I was trying to record them. I only got one because I kept getting distracted by the other one and keep like trying to find the best finale,
And just to be clear, these were not the municipal fireworks displays from your city or any of the surrounding towns, right?
No. I know there's some people that do it at least like a certain part of my house, but this time it was coming from every direction, and it was kind of interesting because some of them would do their finale one time and the other one would do a better finale the other time. And I'm sure these people I'm sure they didn't plan it that way or know each other, but it went on a long time. It went on for a couple hours, actually.
So you had quite a display, even though, or maybe in spite of the fact that they're illegal in Massachusetts, you had a great display, right?
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I'm like, I don't even need to leave my house and I can see it.
And so it wasn't a problem to you that these people are all lawbreakers, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like, because I've lived in New Hampshire for so long, I kind of felt like, well, you take your life in your hands when you use explosives that you're not trained on. But I think that they probably were being careful because they just don't want to get caught, but also they don't want to get injured.
Right. Okay. So you had a free show on the 4th of July of all those fireworks, and you had no problem with it at all, right?
No, I didn't. I thought it was very enjoyable.
All right, Christine, thank you very much for joining us today and for sharing your experience. I have a feeling that that's pretty much statewide or Commonwealth-wide. So thanks a lot and have a good one.
All right. Thank you.
And the other thing is, Christine certainly didn't rat anybody out for setting off fireworks, did she?
Well, the only problem I have is when they set them off at midnight, after they've been sitting around in the yard with a 30-pack,
Yeah.
and then they set them off at midnight. That's a little annoying, but
yeah, and not only that, pets don't really like fireworks. Dogs don't like fireworks.
Well, human beings don't like them either when they're trying to sleep. But but I got to tell you though, people who do set them off are smart enough to only do it for about 5-10 minutes and then stop, because they know if somebody reports them and the police drive by, they got a few minutes before the police drive by and tell them to stop. So, still at midnight, not good.
No, I agree. The next law, did you know that there is still actually a law in the books that it's illegal to be a communist in the United States? Did you know that?
Communism?
Don't even think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess a couple of courts have, in my deep research prior to doing this podcast, is that several states have, in fact, said that that's unconstitutional. But the law is still in the books if you go to the law books and check out that citation that I've given.
I think I read something about this previously in some states where, yes, Communist Party was banned. Yeah. And all those people did who were members of the Communist Party formed other parties that were not called communists. So there are still people here that apparently have the same philosophies, but they don't call themselves communists.
Right. Okay, so no one's going to ask me. No one's going to prompt me. Well,
what?
What about Bernie Sanders?
Party exists today, and it's been declared unconstitutional. It's still on the books.
I thought somebody was going to ask me about Bernie Sanders, but Bernie is Sanders. Not he is a socialist, and there's a big difference. I've had this book since college, and I think
got some dust on it.
Look, it rained on it once, but I've had this book since college, and I think I read half of the first chapter and passed the test, and it's been sitting on the shelf since then. So if you want to know the difference between socialism and communism, Doug, would you read this book and get back to me?
Oh, certainly. Absolutely. I'll submit a full report. Yeah.
Okay. I'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
The next unenforceable law. Did you know this was a law for non-residents enrolled as a student at a school or a college in Massachusetts who operates a motor vehicle registered in another state must file with the local police a statement that provides ownership, registration information, and liability insurance coverage information?
Yeah.
Nobody's doing that.
That ain't happening. Now, I can tell you, having two children that went to out-of-state colleges and had cars, both of them did register the cars with that particular college.
Okay,
but
that's cool.
I would never think to register them with the state of New York or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I can't believe that everybody going to Harvard and MIT and Boston College and BU is registering their car with the state when they're from
No.
Exactly.
Jersey.
Yeah.
As you and I both know, in September, the population of Boston goes up, 10 times?
Yeah.
And, a lot of the kids ride the T, but a lot, you see it everywhere. Cambridge, Brighton, Allston, Boston, everywhere.
Yeah.
You see out-of-state plates. You see New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Oregon.
Especially, yes, upperclassmen,
Yep.
who, instead of taking a stupid I don't want to say that, home for Thanksgiving, they're just going to drive. So,
Yeah. And so, how many of those do you think line up at the Boston police headquarters to fill out this form?
Exactly. Yeah.
Zero.
Okay, so let me see if I can bring up Doug, this next one is yours.
Ooh,
Here you go.
one of my favorites.
So
I even printed it out. I have it right here as well. It's a very short. It's let's see, Title 14, Chapter 89, Section 3, to be exact.
Thank you. Let me look that up. Hang on.
And it's no person shall travel on a way.
Wait a minute, I'm not there yet. Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
You got it? You got
Got
it? Here it is. All right. No person shall travel on a way with a sleigh or a sled drawn by a horse unless there are at least 3 bells attached to some part of the harness.
Well, all right.
So remember that.
Anybody,
there you are.
Anybody that knows me,
waving.
Anybody that knows me knows that I'm an amateur photographer, and if they've seen my work, they know that I am an amateur. But anyhow, I was walking around in a blizzard because you can get some nice shots when it's snowing, and I saw this guy going by, and so I snapped a picture. He saw me, he waved, but I don't see any bells. Do you?
Well, let me look closely.
They feed a couple bells to the horses beforehand.
Did you hear any bells during this occurrence?
I did not. I don't remember, but I don't remember hearing bells, but I don't think so. So do you think that the state police could have had a state police sleigh and chased him?
Could have been, state police on horseback riding along, Ho there! Where were your bells?
Red, white, and blue bells jingling behind them.
So that brings us to the next unenforceable law. Do not frighten horses. Every person having control or charge of a vehicle shall, whenever upon any way and approaching any horse, drive, manage, and control. Doug, do you drive, manage, and control your vehicle at the same time?
Let me think. Drive, manage, and control. Well, I hope I'm in control. But, usually.
So I really don't want to make too much light of this because this tells us as motor vehicle operators to prevent frightening of such horse. And you know what? I live in a somewhat rural area, and there are actually stables within a mile and a half of my house. And I do see horses sometimes, not often.
Ride by?
Yes. I actually see them.
Do you have a hitching post outside of your home?
No, I have a couple of bollards.
Good.
But no, I'm trying to be serious here because I wonder if they teach this in driver's ed that if there's a horse nearby, maybe you should be just a little careful and not, I see kids doing terrible things in cars, and I would hope that they, understand that, hey, there's horses. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, that's enough of that.
Right. Don't frighten the horse. Oh, I like this one. Yeah.
I did not realize that so many states make swearing illegal. Virginia still has laws making profane swearing a Class 4 misdemeanor. Mississippi has a sentence of up to 30 days in the county jail if you profanely swear or curse in front of 2 persons or more. Georgia law holds cursing in the presence of a person under the age of 14 disorderly conduct. And this I vaguely remember when they passed this, but I haven't heard anything since. Marlborough, Massachusetts, local ordinance imposes a $20 fine for swearing.
Golly, what words would they consider to be words that were swearing words?
Well, we'll get to that in a minute.
Ooh.
Did you know that in Australia, public profanity is an offense in every jurisdiction? I did not know that. Did you?
How can you tell?
Australians have potty mouths.
Well, they're pretty bright people down
we
there.
love them.
Good eye, mate.
What's that?
Good eye, mate.
Oh, go ahead, mate.
So I found as one who has studied law and reads a lot of law, I found the language of this interesting. A person who uses indecent or profane language or sings any indecent or profane song or ballad in a public place or in a police station, or which is audible from a public place, or which is audible in neighboring or adjoining occupied premises, or with intent to offend or insult any person, is guilty of an offense.
Every rap concert has a $250 fine.
Yeah.
I wonder if you swear, but you don't have an intent to offend. Is that okay?
Well, again, what words are considered to be swear words?
All right. You really want to know?
I do.
You really? All right. Here you go. I'm standing right outside of a courthouse to tell you that the issue of swearing, profanity, has gone to the courts a number of times. Sure, George Carlin did a routine, the 7 dirty words you can never say. And when that was played on the radio, Pacifica Radio and the Federal Communications Commission got into a fight that went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Well, what did the court say about that? They said, typical, it depends. It depended on the time, the place, and the manner in which those 7 dirty words were said. What were George Carlin's 7 dirty words? They were, well, all right, I better get out of here before I get thrown out of here. It'll be the second time today. I got thrown off the T platform. The transit people didn't like me talking trash about their trains. Okay, bye.
I can't believe you were actually outside of the courthouse saying those words. I auto wash your mouth out with some soap.
Forget the soap and give me some scotch. All right, just lighten up, everybody.
Oh my goodness, Doug! In all of your years
the
of covering the news in Boston,
that was the
why do lawmakers pass all these laws if they aren't enforceable?
What were you going to say, Doug?
That was the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court you were standing outside.
Yes, it was. Yes, I've been there.
I've been in there.
Yes, so I've argued cases in that.
Really? It's a nice building, isn't it?
It is a very nice building. I think Clarence Darrow practiced in the building next door, which is the old Suffolk Superior Court.
Yes, but I'm sure he didn't swear.
I bet his witnesses swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
There you go.
What were you going to say there?
I was asking before, like, Doug, why do the lawmakers pass all these laws if they can't even enforce them?
Well, that is always the question. They're often feel-good laws in order to show their constituents that they're trying to do something to make life more bearable or safer. But, they kind of pat themselves in the back and they go home. And, the rest of us are left to either dealing with them or law enforcement agencies are left to trying to enforce them. But as we've learned today, many of them really are unenforceable. Well,
I know that, as I had said in the very beginning of this podcast, you get elected. You get elected to office. Okay, far-fetched, but I get elected to office. Somebody actually pulls the lever and puts me into office. Okay, there's so many people that are senior to me. They've been in the legislature for years and years and years and years and years. So now I've got to do something to prove myself, or in the next election, people are going to say, that Myers, he's no good. He did nothing. He just sat there and collected a check and did nothing. Okay, that's me. But anyhow, suppose I am elected, and suppose I want to prove myself, I need to pass laws. So, constituents call me and they say, well, we need to pass a law to keep radios in cars. We need to pass a law to, make the stop signs blue because we don't like red. All right. So I present these laws. My understanding is that, I know from covering the legislatures, when you draft a law, here it is, guys, vote on this. You've got to append a summary indicating the financial impact of that law.
Yes.
So, it would cost $500,000 million to paint all the stop signs blue. Well, okay. All right. But why can't they, when they propose this legislation, why can't they require that a legislature append a statement as to how they will enforce this law?
That seems a reasonable request, especially if it's a public safety law and public safety officials would have to enforce those laws. Sure, why not?
Well, I mean, the police have been through an awful lot, and so I hope nobody is taking this as a dig to the police, because they've been through so much in the last few years, and they've got their hands full, and it's not a fun job. So I don't mean anything that I'm saying to denigrate the police, because I think they do a great job. But I mean, when you pass these laws and they're already up against the things that they're up against, and a drug epidemic and all the rest. How really, unless you're going to append more money and just have special patrols. I mean, we all have already said on this podcast that we've all seen people, texting and driving, talking on the phone and driving, doing God knows what and driving. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, should the legislature keep passing these laws, or should they, really come up with a strategy for saying, yeah, this is what we're going to do?
Strategy? Come on now. Yeah, these things are going to continue to happen. Another law we haven't discussed that I also find to be unenforceable are states that have what are known as primary seatbelt laws, meaning you can be pulled over for not wearing a seatbelt. Now, in Massachusetts, we have what's called a secondary seatbelt law, in that if you are pulled over for any other type of offense, speeding or reckless driving or whatever, and the officer notices you're not wearing a seatbelt, then that can also be added to the list of charges. But how is a police officer supposed to look into your car and see if you're wearing a seatbelt in order to pull you over? Because there are efforts every year to upgrade the seatbelt laws in Massachusetts to make it a primary seatbelt law state, where you can be pulled over for just not wearing a seatbelt. Now, most of us do wear seatbelts all the time. I do. You probably do as well. Although, I grew up at a time when I can remember cars we had in my family that did not have seatbelts.
No, of course not. No, no.
Now
it's hard to get. Now it's hard to get into a car. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I just find that another unenforceable law. States that do have primary seatbelt laws, how can you prove that I was not wearing a seatbelt when you pulled me over, or when you do pull me over, I reach over and I put the seatbelt on? I mean, I understand that there are legislators who really want to see this happen, a primary law, but in order to, again, hopefully improve public safety. But again, it just seems to me as a law that is completely unenforceable by police officers.
Police have enough to look for on the road. They're, looking for people that are drunk driving, drugged driving, people that are weaving back and forth, people that might have, drugs in the car. Police are looking for so much, and they still have their little radar guns trying to stop speeders and keep people safe. I just don't see how they can even enforce a seatbelt law. It's a good idea. I wear a seatbelt only because you get into the car nowadays and the thing just comes down on top of you. And if you don't buckle it, the car goes,
Exactly.
So
now, another thing we can discuss if you want for a minute or so is traffic cameras. And, traffic cameras, you're the attorney, isn't a basic law, a basic right of the Constitution is a right to confront your accuser. And I know people who have taken trips to other states and they come home and a month later they get a bill in the mail for like $200 because a traffic camera somewhere in Maryland saw them allegedly go through a red light or do something they shouldn't have, and they had no knowledge of any of that happening to them. That I also feel is unenforceable, because you really, what am I going to do? Confront the camera and say, no, that's not me.
Isn't that the opposite of unenforceable? It's totally enforceable because unless you pay that ticket, you're in a very dark place.
Well,
I mean,
exactly.
So I
It's
think
like
that's
the IRS. The IRS is the only agency where you are guilty until proven innocent.
exactly.
So, and I know that well too, because they audited me once and sent me a bill for a fine and a penalty, and I had to prove that I didn't do what they said that I did.
Yeah,
And I did prove that.
sucks.
So
Yeah.
I didn't have to pay. But if you can't prove that, automatically you have to pay the tax that they say you owe, plus the penalty on that tax that they say you owe. And unless you prove otherwise, you're guilty.
And not only the penalty, also the interest. You pay not
But
only
you know
the
what?
penalty, but you also pay the interest that accrues from the time that they allege that you committed the egregious act until the time you pay it. So you've got not only the penalty, but you've got the interest that accrues on the thing. I think
Right.
the way
Until you
they've
prove
always
yourself not
Yeah,
guilty.
the way they've always gotten around that, and the way administrative agencies get around, you're guilty until proven innocent in terms of traffic violations is, oh, well, this isn't the court. This isn't a court of law. This is an administrative agency. So those constitutional protections don't necessarily apply to you. And it's an argument that in some contexts has been allowed and other contexts has not been allowed. It just depends. Do you have any final thoughts on our topic today in terms of unenforceable laws? Lainey, do you have any?
I agree with the seatbelt thing, that it's interesting to me that Massachusetts would be making that a primary when your car's already yelling at you for not doing it. And I totally agree. And especially like things like profanity with the police. It's just like, are they like, yeah, what's going to help the cops is them giving you a ticket for $50 for saying a bad word. Like that's going to greatly improve the public relationship with the police. No, but Doug, unless there's anything else you want to add.
All I want to add is drive safely, everyone. And watch out for that guy on the bike, because you know what? He ain't watching out for you.
No,
4 feet.
No,
4 feet.
Thank you so much, Doug, for joining us today, and everybody watching. We hope you learned something this episode. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and we really hope and look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Thanks, Lainey. Yep, please, Doug, thank you for joining us, and don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and have a great day.
You have been watching About the Law, a production of the law offices of Andrew D. Myers in Methuen in the Merrimack Valley of Massachusetts and Derry, New Hampshire. Please give us a like and subscribe. The foregoing is offered for informational purpose only. It is not intended as, nor does it constitute, legal advice. Laws vary widely from state to state. You should rely only on the advice given to you during a personal consultation by a local attorney who is thoroughly familiar with state laws and the area of practice in which your concern lies.